Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Josh and Morgan. If you have any questions along the way, you can put them in chat and then we will get them addressed. And with that, Josh, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and take it away?
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Karachi, and I'm joined by my wonderful account manager, Morgan Schneider, today. We are the Go Ahead Tours team that exclusively works with lifelong learning and retiree travel all across the country. Appreciate you all coming out for today's meeting. This is the second information meeting for our Fall Foliage Vermont to Massachusetts tour, which is actually going to be just getting home this time next year. So literally just a year away. And I heard it sounds like for our folks in West Virginia, it's the fall weather just showed up this morning. So we are coming to you live from Denver. It's also kind of 50 degrees, little overcast. So I think fall is hitting us here as well. Quick breakdown of what our tour is going to cover, or what our meeting is going to cover. Do a little background about Go Ahead. Of course, this is our first time partnering with the good folks in West Virginia. So just excited to introduce ourselves and make sure you understand who we are as a company. Talk about the tour highlights, the places we're going to go on the tour, some optional excursions and extensions. Then, of course, talk about the price of the tour, some great discounts available to members who want to sign up in the next 2 weeks, just as a little bit of like a early enrollment promotion. And then, as mentioned before, plenty of time for questions. So if something pops into your mind and you want to utilize the chat, feel free to do so. But if you just want to hold on to that question for the end, we will allow folks to come off mute, and we will hang out as long as the group needs to make sure any questions we don't cover during the presentation are answered. Before we hop into the presentation, there's a fun little video we like to share thinking about the idea of group travel as a whole. And also we get to put this fun little tag on there because we were recently voted by Newsweek magazine Reader's Choice as best tour operator. Fun little additional trophy for the trophy case. So that is a quick little preview, and we'll jump into a future slide here. What exactly does it mean to travel as part of a guided group? I never make the assumption when hosting a meeting like this that anyone's ever done travel before, even though we know there's been many great trips offered through the alley and for the retirees. But at the end of the day, I think it's just the idea that when you do guided group travel, we want you to know it's an easy experience for you. And we'll talk a little bit about exactly how easy that experience is. But before we jump into Go Ahead, I think we want to talk a little bit about our parent company, EF Education First. We are the world's largest educational travel company. And one way to see that, if you look across that map, all those little blue dots we have all over the world are places we have physical offices and employees. One of the places your tour, Boston, is where your tour ends. That is actually where our EF's largest office in the United States is. And a fun fact is when you do this tour, you actually have members from the office come greet you for a welcome dinner and for your farewell dinner. So you get to meet some staff and we get to hear all about how your tour went. But in addition to being the world's largest educational travel company, we actually got our start over 50 years ago as a language learning school. Our founder was Swedish and needed to learn English. And then from that, the travel division was born. In addition to the cultural exchange program, we have tens of thousands of international students who come to live with families in the United States. We help facilitate that process every year. Not to mention the fact that we also are an accredited institution. In that Boston campus, along with Dubai and London, we have the Hult International School of Business, which is our college division. And then pivoting, I think, to a very important question: why does travel matter? I think specifically for the lifelong learning community, I think it's important to remember that, our time as a learner never ends. I think travel, no matter how you do it, is a wonderful way to engage with different parts of the world, meet new people, try new food, experience new cultures. But I just also know that when you purposefully travel with education behind it, it can make that experience even better. So that is really where we feel very strongly with our ability to help both facilitate and create those guided learning experiences. We're just really happy to be able to offer a trip like that to the folks considering this tour, along with our many other travelers all across the country. But the great thing about this question is that is why I think travel matters. You can have your own answer to this question. None of us, there is no wrong answer. Just excited that the folks here are considering adding this travel experience to their portfolio. Now going back to that video, it referenced what is guided group travel? Why does it make sense to go with a company like Go Ahead? Well, what even is it? I think, again, I mentioned before, I don't ever assume anyone's done a trip like this before. So I want to kind of break down what does it look like? Things, in the name, you're guided group travel. So you're with a group. This right now is a private trip specifically for both the Alley at West Virginia and the retirees, meaning right now we have a goal. We have a very small group number to get to. Luckily, just if we get this trip to 14 people, we're over halfway there right now, because we did roll out this tour a little earlier in the summer for the first early adopters to it. Then we will be able to travel completely independently as just our private group. But when we are there, we want to make sure, again, back to the idea, we want it to be easy. So your tour is staffed with a full-time tour director. That's the individual who's with you from the time you touch down until the time you go home. They're handling things like checking us into hotels. If we're going out to eat as a group, they're handling the reservations. When we're visiting different cultural sites that require ticketing, they're handling all that. So you can just show up and enjoy. We want it to be easy. Also, we talked about the idea educational. This is for folks who want to continue to learn about the places they're visiting. So in addition to your tour director, you've got local guides who are going to be integrated on specific days of the tour. Those are folks who are coming in. They're not with you the whole extent of the tour, but they're there with you for maybe a full day, a half day. They are really going to be knowledgeable about the specific place that we're visiting that day. And those are people in addition to the tour director to, again, really lean into the educational component. I think, I mentioned before, even though this is a domestic tour, so staying inside the continental United States, you are still going to a place that's different from where you're from, different, of course, like culinary, what's available. Really nice thing if you are in this part of the country, you're going to have access to some really great seafood. But I also know not everybody cares about that lobster roll. You want to get other good food. So no matter what you like, there are many good offerings amongst the many places this trip goes. So know that you will have a chance just to try the local fare. And then thinking about making it easy again, well, one way to do that is kind of keeping everything under one roof. And what I mean by that is, well, you have a travel component being on the tour, but we have to get there. So of course, like being able to have flights bundled in is something we're able to offer, but we do not require. So we give you the flexibility. If you want to do it on your own, you can. But we also know a lot of people just like kind of want to keep it, make one payment, take care of the whole thing. So we absolutely have some ways to bundle flights in. Morgan will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then, of course, the tour is about balance. We know that this is a tour specifically designed for both retirees and Ollie members. So knowing that we want it to not feel rushed, we know that there are times to go explore, and then there are times to recharge our batteries and kind of, get ready for the next adventure. So we want to make sure you do that in really high quality hotels. Some misconceptions about group travel is, well, the reason we can keep the tour affordable is because we do things like we pick not the best hotels. We kind of have not the best meals. That is not the case. Meals and hotels are prioritized on this. And they're also strategically located, meaning if it's a day where we've got like a half day, we want to make sure you don't feel like you have to get an Uber or, catch some other form of transportation to even go get a cup of coffee or get a sandwich or do, just kind of enjoy the town you're staying in. So we're specifically locating those hotels in walkable areas so you can enjoy things easily. So now let's talk about the tour itself. So again, mentioned before, the base tour. So that is from September 27th until October 4th. Usually on this map, there'd be a little dotted line that takes you to another location for an extension, but this extension stays in Boston. So if you see these optional for adding the extra couple days, October 4th through October 6th, you'd be in the same hotel. You would just be extending your stay in one of the historic capitals of the country to lean a little bit more into the history and culture that Boston has to offer. That QR code will actually take you to the breakdown of the tour in more specific detail. We're going to cover that here in a second as well. And again, everyone who RSVP'd to the meeting, we'll follow up with instructions to how to check out the personalized website for the trip and some really easy ways to get a hold of Go Ahead. Because if you do choose to join, know that we handle your reservation directly. You don't have to worry about going back through the office. So I mentioned before, when we talk about the tour, we're talking about the base tour. Of course, if you choose to do the extension, it would be in addition to this. But the base tour includes 7 nights in handpicked hotels, breakfast every day. Deluxe motor coach, again, this is a private tour, meaning we're not sharing the tour with strangers. It's really nice. Again, we're going in fall time. I did check. I know that fall might just be hitting West Virginia for the first time the last couple of days, but it has fully hit the Northeast for the last couple of weeks. So know that it'll be, again, chillier, none of those 80-degree days when we are up there next year. So it might be a little colder in the morning. We want to make sure you're able to, bring a jacket. You can leave it on the bus if you decide to get a little warmer throughout the rest of the day as you're moving around. Those expert tour director and local guides, again, the tour director's with you the entire extent of the tour. The local guides are brought in on specific days to provide additional context and knowledge. Those 5 sightseeing tours, 2 group dinners with optional beer or wine if you partake, 2 additional food tastings, and 1 additional wine tasting. So all of that is built in to the base tour. For a quick overview, as I mentioned before, all of the specific details of the tour will be sent out to the group after. So this is a very quick, brief overview. If we need to go back during the Q&A section, happy to do so. But again, just to kind of give a quick touch points about where the tour goes. So day one, usually day one for an international trip would be a travel day in full. But the nice thing about us not having to go too far to get to where this tour begins in Burlington, we fly early in the morning and then we touch down day one. You get picked up if you do flights with us from the hotel or from the airport, taken to your hotel, meet your tour director, and just get settled in and kind of get adjusted so we can start the day 2 off with a good night's sleep and ready to hit the ground running. Day 2 is our first full day on tour, so travel day is behind us. Breakfast included at the hotel, and then a welcome dinner in the evening once the entire group has done their first sightseeing tour. So I am a big fan of Burlington. Personally, I used to live in a different time in my life. I lived in New York, but I had friends that went up to school. Burlington is one of the I think best college towns in the country, just meaning that it has a ton of unique small colleges, but again, a walkable areas, like a lot, again, unique history. You're by Lake Champlain. It's a beautiful place, especially this time of year. So being able to do a guided sightseeing tour of both Burlington and some areas outside, specifically stopping in Stowe. This is actually where you get to do a guided tour of the Trapp Family Lodge from The Sound of Music. So again, super unique piece that's not offered on a ton of other group tours. So it's a unique partnership that Go Ahead has, and very excited that the trip is able to do that. And then I think for our dessert fans out there, another thing that this part of the country is known for is being the birthplace of Ben and Jerry's. So in Waterbury, you actually get to go to the original Ben and Jerry's factory. So being able to taste some of the best ice cream out there directly from the source. Continuing on to the White Mountains, so moving from Vermont to New Hampshire, this is day 3. A thing about tours that makes this tour a little unique is not that we can't have an enjoyable time on your tour bus, but a lot of times the tour bus is there very much just to get you from point A to point B comfortably and safely. The thing about the drives on this tour is they are just as much of the appeal as the places you're going to be going to and from. Of course, because we're specifically going at the time of the year when nature is really showing out and providing its own level of fireworks. So know that the drive to the White Mountains, again, for a lot of people, is one of the motivators to do a tour like this. We're doing a very specific scenic byway that goes for 34 miles specifically through the White Mountains, where you get nothing but wall-to-wall views of fall doing everything that fall is supposed to do. So again, places that is very well trafficked, and nice thing is, again, doing this with the group is the group gets to be together on one bus and trying to do this with a bunch of different small groups and cars and hitting traffic and all those things. This is not the way this trip is going to go. It's going to be very comfortable. And then at the end of the day on day 3, before getting settled in for the night at your hotel, getting a taste a local cheese tasting to be paired with wine before getting settled in. Continuing on, we're doing, again, the full New England tour here. So going from Vermont to New Hampshire, and then day 4, we will ending in Portland, Maine. Again, bias here too. I grew up with family members who live in and outside of Portland, different areas on the coast in Maine. So wonderful town for being the biggest city in Washington, or sorry, Washington, I'm thinking for being the biggest city, I'm thinking of Mount Washington, in Maine. It's actually a super walkable, wonderful downtown right on the ocean. Very fun place to go. But before, excuse me, before we get to Portland at the end of day 4, we are actually going to be stopping by Mount Washington to hop on the Cog Railway. So this is a really unique opportunity to do like it's a half a day train ride. So again, it's not going to be, we're still going to be continuing on the bus, but it really gets to take you to the highest point in the region. But instead of having to climb up or hike up or do anything like that, we'll let the train do the heavy lifting for us and just be able to continue to see more of those fall foliage views. Continuing on in day 5, you are still in Portland, but we head outside of Portland a little bit on day 5 to Kennebunkport. It is one of, again, the more famous small, quaint towns also along the water there in Maine. It's also famous. If we have any historians or, I guess, political fans, this is known for being the original, before they went to Texas, the town the Bushes came from. So George W. As young person was born in and around this area, and the family still has a family home there. But again, another great place. Again, you see seafood, the really fun optional excursion on day 5. You see it there highlighted in yellow is we actually offer a lobster roll and oyster shucking class. So if you want to get your hands a little dirty but safe, you see there the guys wearing the glove. We make sure safety is a priority. You can learn how to shuck oysters. But if you are not interested, the beauty of anything you see highlighted in yellow is you have to opt into that and add that to your tour. Whereas if you do not want to do it, that will be independent time to continue to explore the town and check out the overall area while the rest of the group continues with the class. Then making our way down from Maine via Salem. Again, October, spooky season. We know Salem for being famous for the witch trials, but some unique American history there as a kind of a stop to break up that drive between making your way from Maine down to Boston. But then getting able to get settled in Boston, again, a beautiful time of year to be there. There's plenty of fall foliage to enjoy in the big city, the same way there was in those other areas we visited. And being able to go along the Charles River and be able to see the public gardens before settling in for the night on day 6. Day 7 is the first full day in Boston. So traditional sightseeing, when you think about that from mid-morning until sometime around lunchtime. So having traditional sightseeing to be able to see much of the Revolutionary history that Boston has to offer. Again, a very walkable town, I think, even for being a bigger city, because it's so historic, I think it's one of the more beautiful towns to go visit. And then similar to like that oyster shucking class, you see there's an option that evening or that mid-afternoon to do a continued Revolutionary Lexington and Concord tour. So get a little bit outside the city to dive deeper into our American history. And then the group will come back together. This is our final full day on tour with the whole group to have a farewell dinner, exchange information. Again, I always say if you aren't friends with the fellow travelers before you travel with them, you will be by the end of the tour. So a lot of times we're sharing pictures and figuring out how the group's going to get back together when they get back home. Mentioned before, this tour offers an optional 2-day extension. So know that if you want to add on 2 more days in Boston, you can opt into that. But if not, on day 8, you'd actually be heading home if you're just doing the base tour. But if not, continue again the rich history tour that is Massachusetts. So heading outside of the city to go down to Plymouth, of course, known for Plymouth Rock. And then day 9 is, a lot of times people add the extension because they just want some additional free time in the city. So day 9, you have the ability to have that being a full free day. which would be your last full day if you did the extension. Or if you'd prefer to do something more guided, you can actually do the Boston Common walking tour along with the Wang Theater. As per mentioned before, anything though that you see highlighted in yellow, completely optional if you don't want to do it. Mentioned before, speaking of that, there's 3 optional excursions on this tour. The lobster roll and shucking class on day 5. Day 7, that revolutionary visit to our revolutionary tour history day with Lexington and Concord. And then day 9, if you do the extension, the Boston Common walking tour and the visit to Wang Theater. uh, you see the term from 155, from 95, or from 55. That's just because if you choose to add them when you are on tour, the price does go up $10 per excursion. So I would say if you think you're going to add them before you leave, but know that you don't have to add them at the time of booking. You have the option to kind of weigh it out, talk to the group, see if your friends are going to do them, but know that they are there for you to partake in if you want to enjoy. All right, with all that being said, I'm going to kick it over to my partner, Morgan, and who's actually going to be your direct point of contact for the tour. If you choose to join, it's great. If you have any questions, you don't have to call Go Ahead or call EF. You can just call Morgan, and she's going to talk a little bit about your travel coverage options.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Morgan, and I'm the account manager that works with all of the Ollie groups. So if you decide to join this trip, you would hear from me. I would send you an email, congratulations for joining, and then you would just hear from me as we get closer to the trip, making sure we have all of your information, your driver's license or passport, whatever you wanted to use to travel with, your emergency contact, dietary notes, all of that stuff. I would also check in with you regarding the excursions, see if you added the ones you wanted. And then I would also check in with you regarding 2 things that are optional, the travel coverage and flights with Go Ahead. So the first one, travel coverage, we highly recommend it. Unexpected things can come up when you're traveling, and it's a lot more stressful when you're thinking about how much it could cost. So we have 2 different types, the basic and the total. They cover all the same things, just to different amounts. So they cover if the airline loses your luggage, you have to buy all new clothes. The airline, your flight's delayed because of weather, and you are stuck in Boston for 2 extra nights. Airlines seem to be getting out of providing hotel rooms. They seem to be like sneaking out of that. But if you have the travel coverage, then you would be able to recover all of the funds lost to that unexpected event that happened when traveling. I always tell the story of when I was on a Thailand trip last year, almost a year ago. There was a large weather event, the largest snowstorm to ever hit South Korea, and that's where our flight was going through. And all of our flights were canceled, and we were told they're going to be canceled for 5 days. We were rebooked for 5 days later. That's a lot of hotel rooms. That's a lot of meals. And one thing that made it a little less stressful was knowing that all of the costs over those 5 days would be fully covered by the insurance. So I highly recommend adding one of these two. If I look at everyone that's on the trip so far, everyone so far has added the basic trip protection. That could be a really good option for this trip because it's not quite as far as going to Europe or going to Thailand. Um, but anytime you go anywhere, something unexpected could come up. If you choose to do the total trip protection, it's going to come with 2 additional things. The pre-existing condition waiver. So if there's anything that you have talked to a doctor about that could prevent you from going on this trip or come up on the trip, you may want that pre-existing condition coverage. And then any reason protection, that's helpful when you have to cancel the trip because of a non-insurance reason. So think someone's wedding gets planned during the trip dates, or someone has their baby earlier than expected, or you have a pet, and if your pet becomes sick, you don't want to go on the trip. That isn't something that would be covered under insurance. but it is a reason to not travel if you're me. So the any reason protection can be helpful then. Instead of losing the cancellation cost, you would get that on a voucher for the future trip. All the other examples I gave, that would fall under the insurance category, and you would submit to insurance to get money back, not just a voucher. And then the second thing that you could choose to add to your go ahead reservation are the flights. So if you just want to concentrate on the trip, the experience, the fall leaves, the seafood you're going to eat, then I would recommend adding the go ahead flights. We do it all for you. So if you're leaving from the same airport, we would make sure we put you all on the same flight. About 6 months prior to departure, we reach out to everyone to see is there anyone wanting to go early, stay later, look at a cabin upgrade. And if there is, we would submit that request and follow up with you. The other thing that's really nice is sometimes airlines have itinerary changes or they cancel a flight. We have a whole team that is checking your flight details and confirming that the new itinerary is good, would still get you to tour on time. And if not, look and see if there's a different itinerary that we could move you to. And then the last thing regarding the flights is airport transfers come with it. So when you arrive at that final destination, there'll be someone there to greet you and take you to that first hotel. What do you need to travel? You don't need a passport for this trip, so you could just travel with a driver's license. You do need to make sure it's um, the valid driver's license, the real ID. There we go. So you do need that, or you can travel with your passport and then no other requirements for this trip.
Morgan, just go ahead and adjust that so we had no passport needed. So now let's talk about if you are excited, it seems like a great trip you potentially want to join, maybe invite some other folks from the community to join with you because we all love traveling with a friend. Let's talk about the ways to actually join the trip. So of course, from a payment perspective, anything we talk about on this slide, nothing is done using interest or financing. When we talk about the ability to split the cost of the trip up into chunks, that's just us wanting to allow you to make payments in a manageable way that fits for your budget. If you are in the company or you prefer not to deal with any payments, of course, you have the ability to pay in full at enrollment. It's by no means required. Sometimes you hear about companies requiring 50% up front and then another 50% a little bit before you depart. We know that that can be limiting to some folks. So we actually allow folks to secure their spot for as low as $99 down. That is what you see with our little option there highlighted in with the red star. So that is called our auto pay. So that does allow you to put your $99 deposit down. It guarantees you a spot on the tour. It allows you to pick a monthly date that works for your schedule. And you can also adjust that if you need to move it in the future. And then an automatic payment would be deducted every month on a day of your choosing. The thing to know about this is it does require a known funding source, meaning you have to use either a checking account or a debit card. We also know some folks would prefer to use credit cards. So we do have an option for you as well. There's a manual pay, and just like it says in the title, that means you control when those payments happen. There is no auto debit on a manual pay. You decide when those payments go, and only when they go is when you authorize them. It does have a little bit of a larger deposit from $99 up to $450, but does allow you to use the two credit cards we accept, Visa or MasterCard. And of course, some people ask, well, can I do a combination of both? And the answer is yes. So the third, I guess, way is combining the two. So that would say enrolling in the auto pay, but then choosing to self-service. You can either call us or go online and make chunk payments using a credit card, which would, of course, reduce your overall balance and then shrink those monthly payments that can still be set up in the background, have a little bit like a set it and forget it. You can opt to go from one to another. Some people turn off auto pay during the holidays because they got, some other things that they prefer to use their money for at that time. And you can turn it back on in January. Really is up to you. The point of all these options, of course, is to give you the flexibility to make payments on a schedule that works for your budget. And then, of course, the cost of the tour itself. So there's two different categories here, of course, double occupancy and single occupancy. A thing to know about most group travel is spots are done using double occupancy. That meaning two people going and sharing a hotel room, whether that's two friends going and just sleeping in different beds, or of course going with the partner and having one bed, or even I know some folks, even if going with the partner would prefer a separate bed, we can give you all those options if you go with a roommate. But we also know some folks are not looking to travel with another person, which is why all tours come with a finite number of single spots. So this tour actually has 5 allocated single spots. There is an additional cost. That's where you see the $14.30. Fortunately, with domestic hotels, it's just they do have a higher cost associated with them, which is why the single cost for a trip that's staying here in the States is a little more than it would be for some of our European offerings. But end of the day, you do some comparative analysis and see what this tour would cost to try to do it by yourself versus going with the group. We feel really confident that there are some great savings to be had here. But in addition to savings, of course, we want to save people any money we can. So for the next 2 weeks, we have turned back on our early enrollment discount. So it just means you have anybody who enrolls and puts their deposit down between now and the 21st would qualify for $150 off. If you've ever done any other EF travel before, and that doesn't mean just with Go Ahead, you could even paid for one of your children or grandchildren to have done an EF tour, let us know, and we actually will consider you a repeat traveler, and we'll tack an additional $100 on top of that 150 to make sure we can maximize those savings. So we still, again, with the tour being so far, again, a year away, just under a year away, plenty of time to pay it down. And then 19 spots are left. Again, we mentioned before, we did open up this tour earlier in end of spring, early summer. So thank you for our friends who have already booked. But know that we do have plenty of spots left for you if you want to join. So things you're responsible for. So these are things where we will cover this in detail right around 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before we depart. Morgan and I will host another meeting for our people who are going on the tour. It's called a pre-departure meeting, but we want to make sure these things are not catching anybody off guard right before they leave. In addition to the cost of the tour, of course, assuming above adequate service and phenomenal service is provided, those folks like your tour director, your local guides on the days you have them, and your bus driver, a tip is encouraged. So that's why we recommend people budgeting $12 to $15 per day in total. And then the days we don't have, of course, included meals. Your tour director is a great resource. You don't have to worry about knowing these areas. You'll always have recommendations about places to go, but just know on days food's not provided that you've got money allocated for that. In addition to daily spending money, some great souvenirs people can pick up along the way and bring back. Overweight or extra luggage, even if you do flights with us, if you bring extra bags more than the airline allocates, that's something you work out directly with them. The great news, no need for a passport reminder. As long as you got that real ID, you will be all set to go as this trip does not leave the United States. All right, we are at our final slide. Mentioned before, spots are open for everyone who RSVP'd and expressed interest in the trip. We will make sure that the communications go out. But do know, if you're excited, you want to put that deposit down. We do have a team working Monday through Saturday that's available at that 1-800 number. The only thing that you need to reference is just the Ollie, West Virginia and Retirees 2026 New England Fall Foliage trip. They will know what trip that is to get you enrolled. And actually that little, that code or that QR code in the corner also takes you directly to the website. Another option just for folks that are busy, we will follow up in communication. There's actually a way for you to request a call from our team at a time of your choosing. We will make sure you get that information as well, because sometimes if we have busy schedules, we know I can only talk between 2 and 2:30 tomorrow. It'd really be great for Go Ahead to give me a call. We can absolutely arrange that for you so we can talk about the tour on your schedule. With all that being said, we're at the end. We'll check. I did see, I'm not sure if there's anything else that popped up in the tour. Okay. And then what was I going to say? Anyone else has additional questions, feel free to come off mute. Morgan and I are here to answer anything you might have.
I'll put the link in the chat for where to schedule a call with the reservation consultant. It's really nice to do it over the phone because they can build out the quote for you, answer questions about payment options, go over if you wanted to do the payment plan, what the monthly amount would be, so that you have just all of those details.